Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF Is Invisigun Heroes. Brought to you by Sombr Studios. This is a multiplayer game with a twist. It's pretty difficult to explain without just showing it to you, but the first time that you see it, you may be very confused indeed. For this is a game in which both you and your opponents are invisible. You would think that that would make it fairly hard to kill them. You would be correct, it does, but then that's kind of the whole point. Invisigun Heroes is a top-down, multiplayer arena-style game that can either be played locally or online. Thank God it does actually have online functionality, in which you hold the Invisigun, which is a weapon that keeps you invisible unless you decide to fire it, at which point it reveals you for a fraction of a second before you disappear once again. You have to navigate the arena without being able to see where you are. You can reveal yourself by shooting in order to get your bearings, but of course that lets the opponents know where you are. If you end up bumping into parts of the terrain or, say, walking across a snowy tile, your footprints may appear. Indications that you've been there. You move through foliage, it ruffles as you do so. And it's a game about hunting, a game about baiting your opponents into a position in which you can assassinate them, and of course trying to predict where it is your opponents will go. There is a lot more to it than mere arcade action. Before we start, let's have a look at the options menu. Not really a lot to talk about here, although I will say that I wish this were better. Full screen on or off sets the game into a 4:3 resolution, at which point you can change the resolution window scale but not give precise resolution numbers. I don't like this at all. Unfortunately, it means that it's going to set it to whatever the native resolution of your monitor is. For most people, that's not going to be a problem. For someone that's trying to capture it or maybe has some weird monitor settings, they may very well struggle with that. It would be nice to see this menu properly overhauled. As it is a top-down game with pixel art, graphical settings are really not all that relevant, but it lets you turn off things like screen shake if that's not your thing. And of course, if you use a controller, you can turn vibration on or off, and you can set custom insult phrases for when you win. I imagine this is going to be very exploitable. Outside of that, you have keyboard layouts available right here. You can use up to 4 players on the same machine, but as I mentioned earlier, it is also an online multiplayer game. Only 6 buttons required. Very simple, but oh so very complex and satisfying nonetheless. I'm going to jump into a single player challenge to demonstrate what this game is all about, and then we are going to tackle one of the big issues that this has. Not only this game, but many, many more besides in this particular area. We're going to start on easy for the time being. There we go. I shall pick a character, one of these different heroes. Each of them has a different model and also has a special ability they can use. The one that I like to use is Proteus, who has a scanner they can deploy which will, if making contact with an enemy, lock onto them and potentially reveal them. Very, very useful indeed. All right, let's rock and roll. Here are our bot opponents and we are ready to go. You're not going to be seeing an awful lot here because, as I mentioned, you are invisible, and that is in itself a complete and total game changer. So here we are, ready to rock and roll. My character is this one down to the bottom, in the blue right there. Oh, I can't see a damn thing. Indeed, no you cannot. But as you may have noticed, as soon as you shoot, you will be able to see. There we go. No, we didn't get him. Now we did. Now, this game uses grid-based movement. So you can shoot in one of 4 different directions, and when you hit the movement button, it will move you 1 square in the direction that you've moved. This is a little instant replay that happens at the end of every match, which is a nice little feature. You can even export it as a GIF, which is lovely. I like that very, very much indeed. And you can see where everybody was moving at the time of the end of that round. This is a survival challenge, so I'm supposed to win, I think, 4 rounds without dying, which is a little bit tricky. But never mind, for demonstration purposes, it'll work just fine. It's going to move out of the way right here. Now, if you are a keen-eyed person, you may notice every now and again there's a little colored flare. There was one right there. You might see it right there. You see those blue colored flares and little bumps on the terrain? That means that I'm running into it. A hugely important aspect of this game is the ability to remember where exactly you are on the map at any given time. Oh, God! Whew, shut him down. You have to remember where you are on the map at any given time, and thankfully, since it is grid-based movement, You shouldn't have too many problems with that as long as you count in your head how many squares you've moved. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you start to learn the maps and get a rhythm and a feel for it, you are not going to have to actively think about it. It's just something that you will naturally remember, although it is certainly a challenge for new players, no doubt about that. But that's one of the awesome things about it, simply because it does take quite a bit of skill. And I love this method of spotting the opponent that you can use. See, I was able to figure out exactly where he was because I saw a splash on the water there. What you may have also noticed is the power-ups drop in the water on this particular map as well. They do like to drop a power-up every 20 or so seconds in an area which can become something of a flashpoint, particularly an area in which you have to risk going for the power-up. In this case, in the water, you can be spotted by a keen-eyed player. That aspect of situational awareness and truly trying to pay attention to what's going on around you makes this a surprisingly cerebral game. It seems like arcade action, but in reality, it's almost like a simultaneous turn-based game in which everyone takes their turns as fast as they can, and it requires a great deal of patience and the ability to, hopefully, take out your opponents without panicking. Thankfully, I'm just playing as easy bots here. Oh! Speaking of panicking, there is a... Yeah, he's around here somewhere. There are these amazing moments in which you end up clashing into each other and you're desperately trying to get the first shot off before the stun wears off, and I screwed that up there, unfortunately. I was trying. I tried my best, but I just couldn't quite make it. Oh, well. Never mind. And that is my failure in that particular challenge. How unfortunate, but never mind. It's a pretty damn simple concept, as you might imagine, but the game has a huge number of different game modes and different maps on which to play. 50 maps, which is a massive number, and they are filled full of hazards and interesting terrain interactions. I can demonstrate that by just jumping into single-player challenge again, and if I head over to this planet right here, we can go to a completely different level with completely different hazards. These can include a... Oh, maybe I actually can't do that one just yet. I was trying to, but never mind. I think you have to do the first one. This one's a good one. Let It Go. This is a snowy level, as you might imagine. And I'll grab the same character once again. On this level, there is a Yeti hazard, which can periodically freeze anybody that happens to go near it, so you got to watch out for that. There is ice and snow that you can leave your mark on. There are even levels in which the terrain dynamically changes as you go through the map. So there's plenty of challenges there, and there are also 8 different game modes. When I played this multiplayer on stream with Jesse, Slowbeef, and Sin Victor, we played the regular mode, which is this one, and that can be configured for first to 3, first to 5, and so on and so forth, with anywhere from 2 to 4 players. And we then also played a mode called Beast Tamer, which involves these strange-looking one-eyed purple beasts popping up from the floor, at which point you are tasked with taming them. That means moving into a square range of them, and if you are able to stay there for long enough, you will be able to tame the beast and it will drop a coin. And these coins are the currency by which you win, and the first to X number of coins is the winner of the game. See the level of detail right there as I'm moving through the snow? You can clearly see on my one-horse open sleigh that I'm leaving footprints. And of course, that is key. That is not simply a nice little aesthetic detail. That is key to figuring out exactly where everybody is. Sneaky, sneaky. Of course, if I was playing against real humans, I imagine they would have figured out pretty damn fast where I was based on the fact that I was stomping all over the snow like that. So, it is a little bit of a risk to do so. And overall, the map design is extremely good. It's all designed around this notion that people are invisible and you've got to figure out where they are. So the variety of traps, hazards, and variable terrain means that there is a ton of content, and this simple concept can be drug out over the course of thousands of combinations of maps and modes. Pretty damn fantastic. Now, as you can imagine, in multiplayer, this is an incredibly tense game. It's a one-shot kill, for the most part, in most situations, and the interactions between the different heroes provide a very interesting experience. I was dealing, while we were playing multiplayer, with a hero that has the ability to spawn a phantom, means you can control 2 characters simultaneously. The Phantom looks like the real person, but instead of killing an enemy, they merely stun them if they encounter them. But, of course, if the Phantom dies, the main character does not. So we had this crazy 2-player duel towards the end, whereby I was using my character with scanner to lock onto the Phantom, but the problem was I didn't know whether or not it was the real character or the Phantom, so there were some really interesting interactions there. You can also block an opponent's bullet with your own, and you can use different abilities to deflect bullets and stun the opponent. There's a character that has a teleporter, for instance, that allows her to portal across the map. However, the portal is visible, so you can actually set up some really cool ambushes by predicting when the opponent's going to use it and then ambushing them in that area. Absolutely fantastic little interaction, and a lot to learn. A surprisingly high skill ceiling. It's pretty easy to learn how to play the game at a basic level, but as I continued to play with my friends, I discovered layer upon layer of depth that this title happened to have. And I'm gonna say it right now, it was, without question, one of the most enjoyable multiplayer experiences I've had in years. It's an incredibly original title, and it's fairly hard to convey it in the format that I'm doing right now. Which is why I would recommend that you watch the stream VOD. I've put the link in the description, in fact, below this video, which will demonstrate exactly what happens when a bunch of us get together and play this game and start yelling at each other. It's extremely entertaining. There, however, lies the biggest problem that this game currently has. If we head on over to Multiplayer Battle, you will see the number of modes and things available, all sorts of different modes. Absolutely fantastic. And you can head in there, pick a map, set a number of coins to win, and all that sort of thing. Set up bots, which is good, thank God, at least the game has bots. And then, of course, you can put up your game and invite people into it. If you set a private game, it gives you a lobby code, which you can distribute to the players that you want in there, rather than a password. System works fine. A little bit awkward, but it works. Here's the big problem. You might be thinking, right, well, what possible barrier could there be to success when it comes to this game? Well, the problem right now is simply this. Nobody's playing it. If we head on over to public match and search, the chances are we're not going to find one. We might get lucky. We may very well get lucky. They have an official Discord by which to organize matches, but if you check Steam charts, you will find that for the most part, these matches are either always full or simply unavailable at any time. I tried to stream it a couple of days ago, simply on my own. I didn't really get anywhere. There are not many people playing this game at present. And that is the curse, perhaps, of the indie multiplayer title. You can see here that while there is a match, it is full and I can't join it. So, the main meat of this game, I can't participate in unless I happen to have friends who are also willing to play it with me. That is a real shame. But it puts me in a little bit of a bind. And that bind is simply this. Make no mistake about it, I absolutely love this game. I think it is phenomenal. It is an incredible amount of fun to play multiplayer. It is very, very satisfying to figure out exactly where you are, where the opponent is, and nail them with an accurate shot. It's tense, it's strategic, it requires a ton of situational awareness and attention on your part. And there is a huge variety of heroes, maps, and modes, the combination of which will give you potentially hundreds of hours of fun. A simple concept, incredibly well executed. A brave concept, frankly. The idea that you can't even see yourself is the sort of thing that most games would absolutely not consider trying. It's bonkers. It's an insane idea. And yet it works very, very well indeed. And it reminds me of certain board game experiences that I've had, such as, of course, the one and only... Oh, gotcha. The one and only Captain Sonar. One of my games of the year in 2016, a team-based submarine tabletop game, in which you had no idea where your opponent is, and it was all about trying to figure it out and the guesswork involved. This has elements of that in it, and the tension associated with it is palpable. But how can I, in all good conscience, recommend an indie multiplayer title that I know for a fact right now does not have a player base? It's a hard sell. It's going to be a hard sell for a lot of people, I think. And I don't blame you. It is $15. That is not an insubstantial amount of money. And considering the single-player mode, while it does exist, is certainly quite simple. And the fun of the game is by no means in the destruction of bots. No, no, no. It can be a tough recommendation. It would not be the first indie multiplayer title to suffer from that fact. As much as I would like to say that online multiplayer is the elixir of life for indie multiplayer games, and God knows how many times I've complained about multiplayer indie titles that are local only, it unfortunately simply is not true. If you don't have a player base for it, you find yourself in this nasty catch-22 situation, whereby people will not buy the game because they know it does not have a player base, and yet, of course, it does not have a player base because they didn't buy the game. And who are we to ask those people to take that kind of risk? With a game like this, it almost seems like it needs either a demo or a trial version, or maybe even needs to be free to play in some way with a rotation of heroes. But they decided to put all of the content in a package and sell it for $15, and that has its advantages, but also, quite obviously, its disadvantages. So it leaves me in that awkward situation, doesn't it? Let me say this. After you finish watching this video, go and watch parts of the stream VOD that I've posted in the description below. See how much fun we're having. It's hard to convey when I'm just playing against bots here, for obvious reasons. See the strategies evolve as we learn to play the game better. See how the different maps and different modes interact when we're fooling around, and see how much depth and enjoyment that we're getting from the title. And once you've watched that, if you feel like that's the sort of thing you want to take part in, I would implore you to consider this game. And the reason that I'm going to say that is because it is, as I mentioned, one of the most original multiplayer games I've ever played, one of the most fun multiplayer experiences I've ever had, and it would be an absolute travesty if a game that original, that enjoyable, and that well-designed were to fly under the radar and essentially become a stillborn title, never really getting the opportunity to shine. That's not fair. But then again, that's the society we live in, isn't it? Not everything is guaranteed success. It can be the best game in the world, but if you don't market it properly, if you are not able to capture the imaginations of a potential player base, then you may very well fail. Is that on the heads of the developers, Sombr? That they didn't market the title? That they didn't have even the budget to market it? That they didn't come up with a different business model, perhaps? Sure, to some extent. No doubt about that. But even if they had, that's no guarantee of success. It's almost a selfish request, I think, for me to come along and say, please, 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 buy this game so I've got people to play it with. Because it is that good, because I love it that much, because it would just be a crying shame to see it fail. Yeah, it is a selfish request. I'm not going to deny that. But you come to this channel, I hope, to find really interesting and well-made titles. Sometimes things slip under the radar. Sometimes things come out around the same time as huge games like Sniper Elite 4 and For Honor and Halo Wars 2, Neo, Yakuza, God knows what. Sure, sometimes they do. And sometimes that can be devastating for a title like this. It would just be nice if this time, just this time, that didn't happen, right? It would be nice if excellent design, originality, and an incredible multiplayer experience packed with content actually did succeed, simply on its own merits, rather than the amount of money that was spent marketing it, blanketing Twitch with it. That would be cool, wouldn't it? That would be a little victory. Maybe that's idealistic of me. I think it is. No doubt. And I can tell you for a fact that this video was not the best demonstration of this title, but how could it be? Without a player base online to play with, how could it be? Go watch the stream VOD. It's in the description below this video. I might be streaming this game again at some point over the next week or so, and then decide whether or not you want to purchase. I think you've heard my opinion. All I can do now is hope that perhaps you see the same thing in this game that I did, and that you do decide to pick it up, maybe with a few friends, and have the same great times that so far we've had as well, and reward a developer for creating something really special. Invisigun Heroes, ladies and gentlemen, available on Steam for $15 or your regional equivalent. The stream VOD is in the description below this video for you to watch. Make your decision, perhaps, on the back of that. Thank you very much for watching, folks. If you like this video, by all means, do feel free to click the like button. If not, the dislike button is right over there. And I'll see you next time.
Stop jumping!
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
I don't believe
we're not friends anymore!